Doctor, how would you feel about using two disease-modifying therapies at once? So say I take Limtrada infusions after 2 years, just to be on the safe side. Could I take a low-level drug? I'm going to answer that question starting right now. Hey! Howdy! Thanks for learning about MS with me, Aaron Boster. I'm the founder of the Boster Center for Multiple Sclerosis, where we care for people impacted by MS from around the globe. We accept all major insurance carriers, and we're currently actively enrolling for clinical trials. One of our viewers, Ghost, asked an awesome question, a complex question, and I want to spend some time breaking it down. So, for starters, Ghost is asking, why couldn't we use more than one disease-modifying therapy? And this is a concept which is actually commonplace in other fields of medicine, like in oncology, infectious disease, and in rheumatology. To date, in MS, we're kind of 10 to 15 years behind the evolution of therapies, and we're not there yet. And so we don't see a lot of combinations used. There's been some efforts at testing combinations. For example, I participated years ago in a clinical trial called the CombiRx trial, where we combined two injectables, Copaxone and Avonex. And what we found is, combined, they weren't necessarily much better than one by itself. There's been other adventures in combination therapy that have been very similarly disappointing. It doesn't mean it's not a good idea or it wouldn't work. It's just that right now we haven't had success, and we're kind of behind the times in our thought processes of mixing and matching medicines. Now, somewhat separately, I will say, I think in the future, we absolutely will stack medicines at the same time, but I'm talking about medicines that aren't invented yet. I've said this on the channel before, but it's my opinion that there are 3 kinds of medicines we need to beat MS. An anti-inflammatory, and I would submit that all of the 23 FDA-approved products for MS today in 2020 are all flavors of anti-inflammation. But in addition to that, we need a second therapy, a remyelinating agent. And unfortunately, to date, we have not been successful in developing a remyelinating agent. Number 3 is a neuroprotective agent. This would be something to protect the nervous system against insult, and that doesn't exist either yet. And so in the future, I think we will be stacking medicines, but that's a bit different. Now, looking back at Ghost's actual question, Ghost isn't just asking about stacking medicines on top of one another. It's actually a very interesting question about the sequencing of medicines. And specifically, this is a concept called induction and maintenance therapy. Ghost says, why not induce the immune system with alemtuzumab and then a couple years later use a maintenance therapy? Now again, this is done very commonly in other fields, like in cancer. You hit it with multiple heavy-hitting chemotherapeutics, and then you may transition to maintenance. The way that we studied alemtuzumab in MS didn't lend itself to answer this question. When you look at the clinical trials data, and you look out, say, 9 years, about half of the patients that were treated for the first 2 courses never got a 3rd course. So they went that whole time and never had another attack or 2 new spots on an MRI. 30% required a 3rd course, and about 14% required a 4th course, because those people had some breakthrough disease. About 7% of all the people in the trial converted over to other disease-modifying therapies, and that's a very small number. And so we can't really comment with any statistical certainty what happens if you take Limtrada and then you go on to a maintenance therapy. Although, as I mentioned, it's not an irrational thought. It's actually very logical when you think about how other fields do this. If we think about the field of MS, there are some studies that tried to look into this. And I remember a study by a famous MS neurologist named Idan. And Gilles Idan was looking at a medicine called mitoxantrone. Mitoxantrone is FDA approved for MS. It's a form of chemo, and it's not really used because of its really rough side effect profile. But in this study, what Idan did is he gave people impacted by MS either mitoxantrone up front and then Copaxone, or he started them on Copaxone. And of no surprise, the patients that first got chemotherapy induction and then went on to Copaxone did way better over the period of the trial compared to just taking Copaxone. Really here we're kind of asking the opposite question though. We're saying, let's say we gave everyone induction therapy who needs maintenance. And I don't think that we have a clear-cut answer today. I'll tell you that in clinical practice, if someone with whom we've given immunosuppression or induction therapy then has disease activity, what we do is as follows. We hit pause, and then we consider options. One option is to do nothing, which is generally not our style, but that is a discussion point because mechanistically you've changed the immune response and maybe you wouldn't have as aggressive disease down the line. Number two is to re-up the immunosuppression or the induction. In other words, take another round of Limtrada in this example. A third option, however, is to transition to a different disease-modifying therapy. And this might be where one might consider induction maintenance, where you could do 2 rounds, 3 rounds, 4 rounds, however many of Limtrada, and then transition to a maintenance disease-modifying therapy. It's a really interesting question, and I think that it's a process of evolution. I'm really curious what the viewers think, and I would love for you guys to write in your comments or thoughts on induction maintenance therapy or in stacking disease-modifying therapies in general. I'll look forward to reading the responses. Once again, my name's Aaron Boster, and thank you for learning about MS with me. I want to thank Ghost for asking an awesome question. And until our next video or live stream, or the next time I see you at the Boster Center for MS, be safe and take care.